everyone. Thanks for coming. We're delighted to welcome Mark Hughes here today as the new manager of Stoke City Football Club. Before we open it out to general questions, Chairman Peter Coates is going to say a few words.
Morning, everyone. Nice to see you. I just want to tell you a little bit about the process and why we've got Mark here today. I don't need to tell you how important it is to get the right man, and so you think long and hard about these things, and what you're looking is for someone who's the right fit for your football club. And we've been through a process. John Coates, that's my son, Tony Scholes, the chief executive, myself, have made this decision, and we've given it a great deal of thought, as you can imagine, because it is so important to this football club going forward. And we've analysed to death Mark's career, and we can tell you everything about it and what he's done and what he hasn't done. But we're satisfied that his CV is very, very impressive and is the right fit for us. He's, from when he started with Wales, Blackburn his first job, and Manchester City. We've analysed everything he's done, and we think he's got a remarkably outstanding football record as a manager. I'll come on to the blip. But we've looked at that as well, and the way we've looked at it, we've got we look at Fulham and we look at Blackburn in particular, where when we think they are similar in many ways to ours, well structured, we think well run, and good football clubs, and we think he'll be coming to Stoke City in the same kind of environment, and we believe he will be just what we're looking for. QPR, the way we've looked at QPR, they had new ownership, new people working on the admin side of the club, new executives. Football's difficult when you have been around a long time, as I have, and when your club has got lots of experience, and they didn't have that. But I look at the three managers they had, all of them exceptionally fine managers, from that took Neil Warnock, Mark and Harry Redknapp. I don't think anyone would argue that they weren't pretty solid, very, very good managers who knew what they were doing. All of them found it difficult. And I would just remind people that Mark, in his first year at QPR, they changed managers because things weren't going right. Mark came in and he did save them from relegation. So we've taken that as that's how we've seen QPR. We focused on what's right for us. We think we want, like every other club, we're always trying to get better, and we want to get forward, and we very much think Mark's the right person to do that. The only other thing I would like to address, because it's been around the media a lot, this new direction question. Well, there's no new direction. It's what we're trying to do. We want to have a professional structure for the recruitment and scouting of players, to give the manager the opportunity to make the best choices. For clarity, Mark will say who comes in and who goes out. We're not going to any European continental model. We're also looking to develop our academy, and we want the manager to buy into that and work with it. And that's this. If you're talking about new direction, well, that's what it entails. Nothing more than that. So we had 7 good years with Tony, and we look forward to Mark. He's been given a 3-year contract, and we're delighted to have him here. And we believe he's going to do very well for this football club. So as far as I'm concerned, I've said my bit, and we're very happy to take questions.
Mark, it's Rob Dawson from Sky Sports.
Hi, Rob.
Welcome to Stoke.
Thank you very much.
You've been out of work for 6 months.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be back and back at Stoke? Why Stoke?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to get the opportunity. Obviously, the coach's family and Peter and his immediate family obviously have given me this opportunity. I'm really grateful. I'm pleased that obviously they've done the due diligence. They've looked maybe beyond my last position and taken my career as a manager as a whole. And obviously they've made the decision, which I'm delighted with. I get the opportunity to work with good people. You mentioned the clubs that I've been involved in before, the likes of Blackburn, Fulham, clubs that I felt I did a very good job for. And there's similarities between those clubs in terms of the solidity of the ownership and the management of the club, and that reassures me because you need that behind you to be able to give yourself an opportunity to be successful on the field. And what with the passion in the area, this is very much a local club that's very close to its community, and I understand that greatly. And whenever I've been to Stoke as an opposition manager, the passion and the real desire of the crowd for their team has been evident to me, and I just can't wait to get started and put a team on the pitch that they'll be proud of.
It's unusual at a new manager's press conference to hear yourself and the chairman both refer to where you've been in the past. And you've both said there that we've looked past that blip. Do you regret going to QPR? It's the only blip that I can see on your CV because it's mentioned there. Do you regret it? No,
not at all. It was difficult. I think we touched on the fact that a lot of managers have gone in there and found it difficult. Their turnover of managers, not only in the last 18 months or so, but historically, has been too high for a consistent level and longevity for managers, which they need. It was difficult and mistakes were made. Certainly I made mistakes which I'll learn from, and it was a difficult time, but I felt I was given the task of keeping them in the Premier League, which thankfully I was able to do. I was given 17 games to do that, and I was able to achieve that. 12 games later I lost my job, which is understandable. We didn't get the results in that period. It was a difficult time, and that's a regret I have, because I think given more time I would have been able to turn it around as I should. But it was a difficult situation with a lot of changes. Possibly, if we're all honest with ourselves, we tried to run before we could walk, and we hold our hands up. Certainly I do, but. From my point of view, this is very much about the here and now. It's all about moving Stoke City as a club forward and as a team, and getting the success that we all want as a group of people.
Your record before that, I don't think when you've had a full season at a Premier League club you've ever finished outside the top 10.
Yeah. So
is it a case of rebuilding that reputation now, so reminding people of that?
Yeah, possibly. I've had something like 270 games at a Premier League level, and people in recent months possibly have wanted to define my managerial career on the basis of 12 games at the beginning of last season, which I understand that, but maybe it gives me more motivation to prove people wrong, because I've kept my counsel for 6 months. I haven't really come out and said my piece of the story. Now is not the time to do that, but I've listened to what people have said and what people have said about my ability as a manager. Now I can assure everybody I'll use that as a motivation to do well for Stoke City.
The odds this morning have you at 5-2 to finish in the top 10 this season. No pressure there, and you've got to start hit the ground running, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't mind that. I've always worked with expectation. I think some managers sometimes have gone into clubs and said, well, we're just happy to stay in the Premier League, which is huge, and I understand that, but I think fans want to hear that you want to progress and you want to raise expectations, and I've always done that at clubs. Sometimes it's come back and bit me on the backside because I've raised expectations too high and people come crashing down, but my intention is to take this club forward, to take the team itself forward and make sure that we're successful in the future, and that's my motivation along with other things.
What do you say to the fans? I mean, you'll be aware that Tony Pulis was very popular here. He had 7 years here, brought them to the Premier League, kept them here. Is it a hard act to follow because of how well he did and how well he was received?
No, absolutely, and it's a big decision that's been made, and I understand obviously the success Tony had enables myself to have a better chance, because I'm following somebody who's put in place things that enable the club to be stable and has created an environment, I'm sure, that is conducive to being successful in the Premier League, and I'll reap the benefits of that, absolutely.
Peter, I always ask you about money whenever I see you, and you never want to talk about it, but the Coates family, your son John and Denise and yourself have spent a lot of money on this football club in recent times. We reckon £100 million in transfers in 3 years. What sort of money is Mark going to have to spend from here on in?
Well, as usual, I'm not going to tell you. But what we're looking to achieve, and we believe we can, and we've got a model we want to work to, but we want to be sustainable as a football club. We've got this new money coming into the Premier League, and it's almost a sacrilege if every football club isn't sustainable, frankly. It's a great blot, in my view, on the Premier League that there's so much debt when there's so much money. And I think there's a realisation amongst the Premier League clubs that is so, which is why they've brought in some new financial fair play rules. So we want to have a sustainable model. We can do that, and we can still provide funds for the manager.
So that sounds like he won't have the same sort of money that maybe Tony Pulis had recently?
Well, I'm not going to get to be specific on that, but we want to do recruitment well. It's one of the keys to any football club and the success of any football club. Recruitment. When I use that word, you must remember it has two sides to it. It is both buying and selling, and so we want to make sure we're good at it. And so that's a challenge, and that's something we'll be working very hard on.
Mark, what do you make of the Stoke squad as you see it? I mean, you've clearly not had a chance to meet the players, spend any time with them, but you've seen them from afar. What's your view on how strong a squad it is?
No, it's a strong squad. It's a squad that has an understanding of the Premier League. They've been in the Premier League for a number of years now, and that's important because they have that understanding of what it takes to win Premier League games. So it's not a case of coming in and wiping away all the hard work that's been put in place in previous seasons. That would be crazy to do that. What I will look to do is hopefully make them a little bit more offensive. I'd like to think that the teams that I've been involved in have always scored a good level of goals, and I think that's an area where maybe in the past the team hasn't been able to really help itself by obviously the amount of goals that it's been able to score in the Premier League in seasons. So we'll look to address that, try and make ourselves a little bit more offensive, but we're not going to chuck the baby out with the bathwater. It's about steady progress, making sure that we do it at the correct speed, and if we do that, then we can move forward.
I mean, Tony Pulis was criticised for his style of play sometimes. Do you feel you can try and play a more attractive style of football? Is that your aim?
Well,
issue with that, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look, so sometimes you get labelled with a certain way of playing. Certainly, my team at Blackburn on occasions was labelled wrongly, I felt, and I felt really strongly about it. I can understand where Tony has come from in the past in regard to how people viewed his Stoke team. I can only take the club forward how I know, and my philosophy is always to play football, to play good football, create chances, and make it entertaining for the fans that pay good money to come and see us, and that's what I'll endeavour to do. That's what I've always tried to do.
You've got a couple of specific issues you've got to sort pretty quickly, I think. Stephen Nzonzi has put a transfer request in. Asmir Begovic is attracting interest in some of the big clubs. Do you want to keep both of those? Have you got to talk to both of those pretty quickly? Yeah, those
are things that obviously in the coming weeks, it's difficult at the moment because everybody's away on holidays or internationals and what have you. So it's a case of getting an understanding of what the issues surrounding the group as a whole. Once I get a take on that, then obviously I can have the conversations that I need. But my intention is to keep the vast majority of the group here because they're a good, strong Premier League outfit, and obviously in the future if we can see opportunities to bring good quality players here that will help the group, then certainly we'll try and do that. But it's not going to be wholesale changes.
And finally, from from me. I just wonder how much you're relishing this chance. I mean, it was 18 months at Manchester City, a year at Fulham, 10 months at into the future and sustainability. Tony Hughes was here for 7 years. Is that something you want now in your career? You want to be here for?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually said the same thing at QPR, but it was taken out my hands somewhat. But no, that's always my intention. The way I work is always with the view that I'm going to be at a club for the rest of my career. I've always worked in that way. So I look long term and I look at short term issues that present themselves as well. So it's my intention to stay here for as long as I can.
We're very mindful of that. Tony and I got on very well. We're still good friends, I hope. I haven't had a phone call from him yet, but I'm sure we'll keep in touch. And it is difficult. I think we both felt, on balance, a change was the right thing to do, and I'm satisfied that it was. But even that, you're always worried in football because there's no guarantees. There's lots of managerial changes going on in the Premier League at the moment and in other divisions, and we'll all feel the same. But there's no denying that there's always an element of risk in these things. But we believe we've made a good choice, and we're very pleased that Mark's come here, and we're looking forward to working with him, and we want to get better all the time, and I'm sure that's what we will achieve.
Mark, I mean, Peter's referred to the fact there's a lot of managerial change this summer, which makes it potentially a very wide open Premier League to come next season. Yeah,
it's wide open. I think there's been an unprecedented amount of changes this year. Obviously, you look at the top end, obviously Sir Alex retiring, then you look right through the league at something like 9 managerial changes, and I think probably that's a consequence. I'm probably one of the more experienced Premier League managers still out there, so take comfort from that. So I think there's real opportunities. I mean, if we can start well, that's really important. So obviously, we want to hit the ground running. We'll have a good pre-season. We'll make sure we get some good quality work into the team. Make sure they prepare correctly, and then first game of the new Premier season, we'll be ready to go. And if we can make a fresh start, get a bit of momentum, then we'll see where it takes us. But it's really important that if there is any disruption in the Premier League, let's see if we can capitalise on that and make sure we're in that top 10. Ideally, that's where I want us to be consistently. If we, as I said, if we do it at the correct level and add players as and when we see fit, then I have a real belief that that's where Stoke City can be for many years. But it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of commitment from my staff and from players alike. But with the sport, I feel I'm going to get from the coach family and Tony as chief executive. I think we've got the basis of a really successful club here.
Mark, I remember you saying at Fulham that club couldn't match your aspirations, which is why you left. Can Stoke match your ambitions?
Well, I'm here because I believe this is where I should be. I think it's a club that is very reminiscent in terms of the structure and the solidity, as I said, and the stability that it has. And there is similarities certainly between Fulham and Blackburn, as I've mentioned. The situation of Fulham was that I had the opportunity to re-sign at Fulham, and by all accounts I was offered probably the best contract they'd ever offered a manager at Fulham. I decided that I couldn't commit for a further 3 years, and I just felt it was best to leave it when I did. Looking back, I think that was a mistake, and I acknowledge that. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, and at the time I didn't have it. I made the decision at that time for the right reasons, I felt. But certainly coming here, it feels right. You walk through the door, you see the facilities that are on offer here, absolutely outstanding. Everything I feel is in place to enable me to do my job better and more correctly.
You defended your record at QPR, and I maybe unfairly you've been criticised for that spell. I mean, you had an effect on the training ground, the way the club was developing beyond just the transfer market, but Harry Redknapp came in and he had a bit to say about your transfers, the money you were spending on those deals, and indeed the wages that the club was spending on what he thought were average players maybe. Do you accept that criticism from Redknapp?
Well, I'm really followed word for word what Harry said. Basically, I had a group at the end of last season that struggled to stay in the Premier League. We did do it, thankfully, and we worked exceptionally hard to be able to achieve that. But I knew that that squad wasn't capable of staying in the Premier League long term, so we had to do something about it. I had a number of players leaving at the end of that year, coming to the end of the contract. Some didn't want to re-sign because possibly they felt they wouldn't play as often as they would like. Others needed to go because obviously there was an issue with finance, and you had to try and manage the books as well. So the decision was made to bring in my view, better quality players, and that's what I did. I brought in something like 4 or 5 Champions League winners, and the quality of the players that we brought, not for great transfer fees. Wages were significant, but in fairness, I'm a football manager, I'm not a financial director, so I didn't set those fees. So at the end of the day, I felt I'd improved the squad. I think the squad did have ability. For whatever reason, it was very difficult to gel them as a group. There were issues before I even arrived at the club, which in the end were difficult to overcome. So there were reasons behind it. I tried to address it. The way I addressed it didn't come off for me, and I lasted 12 games. But certainly I felt there was enough ability in the dressing room to stay in the Premier League. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it never really happened for them. All done?
Okay.
No problem.
Move outside now.
Yeah, no problem.
Photograph.